Yeah, Bobby. Yeah, Minasan. Everyone, welcome. Welcome to Bobby Valentine to Hanashima Show. That's right. It's our show that we're going to talk about the Japanese players in MLB and the week of Major League Baseball and what might have transpired. Frankie Rampin's with me, Bobby Valentine. Why am I wearing the Angels jersey, Frankie? Why?
So we got to talk about the Angels. They got one of the great Japanese pitchers in the game, Yusei Kikuchi, great left-hander. And another interesting thing happened with them. Let's start with Kikuchi. He started this week a game against the Tampa Bay Rays down in Tampa at the Yankees spring training facility. Another tough luck loss for Kikuchi this week, but he did pitch well again. 6 innings pitched, did give up 6 hits, 4 earned runs on a short porch grand slam to the opposite field in what is George Steinbrenner Field, the same exact dimensions as Yankee Stadium. So a tough home run.
You said a lot of things there, Frankie. That's right. It was a really short home run. That means the guy hit a home run that landed in the first row, right down the line. It could have been foul. It could have been fair. It was just fair, and it's in the front row, and it was 320 feet. That's not even 100 meters away, and he got a grand slam for it. It's the weakest, the shortest home run that you could possibly hit, and he hit it with the bases loaded. There were also a few very bad strike and ball calls called in that game against Kikuchi. He's pitching really well. And the reason I'm wearing the Angel jersey is because the Angels are in first place in an American League West. That's right. Look it up. So they had a good few weeks. They won some series, and the Angels are off and running. There was also another crazy play, wasn't there, with the great Mike Trout, teammate of Ohtani for so many years now, playing right field for the first time and making an interesting play.
Yeah, Mike Trout off to a great start. Hopefully he stays healthy, gets himself back in the action. Angels, like you said, 7-3 start, tied for the best start in franchise history. But Mike Trout, trying to make a play down the right field line against the Houston Astros in Houston. Yainer Diaz lifts one into foul ground. And if you do remember, last year, 2024 World Series, Trout reaches in, grabs the ball, but a fan takes it away from him. Last year, almost the exact same thing happened to Mookie Betts during the World Series. But the only difference, they called that one an out in the World Series. This one was not called an out for some reason.
Okay, so Trout reaches in, he has the ball in his glove, and then this guy takes the ball out of his glove, then apologizes to Mike Trout, obviously, because he did something wrong. In the World Series, when the fan took the ball out of Mookie Betts' glove, that you'll see right here, not only was that a situation that was called an out, but it was also an out for the fan. They threw him out of the park and said that he could never come back to a major league park again. He's banned from all major league parks. A little different this time with Mike Trout. Yes, of course, it's different in the States where there's not a screen all the way around. So the fans do interfere every now and then, even though once you go over the line, once your glove goes over that wall and is on the fan side of that line, it's fair play. So the fans can take the ball, but not take the ball out of your glove.
That's the key part. That's the key part right there. Reaching inside the glove and physically taking the ball out. That was crazy to see. I can't believe the reaction to that one because the World Series banned that guy. Get him out of here. Never want to see his face again. This was a little bit different.
Yes, this was different. And the fan met Mike Trout after the game with his son and got an autographed ball and didn't even get thrown out of the game, was actually just moved from his front row seats. And these two guys, even though they're Astro fans, had the day of their life on television, on the news all around the country, and also meeting Mike Trout personally. So that was kind of cool for the week in MLB. A little different stuff happening. What else happened, Frankie?
One more thing before we go off that. Mike Trout, you're a better man than me. Not sure I would have handled that the same way.
Okay.
But a lot of other pitchers, Japanese pitchers through this week, about 6 of them. 31 and 2/3 innings pitched in total. 2-3 record overall. They struck out 25 batters to only 11 walks, did give up the 25 hits, which led to 13 earned runs, and they went 2-3 over the last week. Japanese pitchers getting themselves acclimated to the season. Loki Sasaki, Sugano making their first seasons, couple starts of their careers over in America, still finding their footing, but improving and looking very good so far.
Okay, so those numbers that you mentioned, Frankie, 31 innings, 25 hits. A barometer is less hits than innings pitched. That's a pretty good one.
Yes.
And then we had 31 innings pitched and again 25 strikeouts that you
25,
mentioned.
yes.
That's another barometer where everything is measured with statistics. If you're striking out a guy an inning, you're doing really well. So these Japanese pitchers are making their mark. Of course, none will ever make the mark higher than Yamamoto, who is the class of all pitchers, came here from Japan with a big contract, and is going to prove this year why he got that contract and how good he is pitching for the Dodgers. And the Dodgers are taking him along slowly, just like they're taking other pitchers along slowly, including Loki Sasaki, who this week took another step forward. You probably heard Dave Roberts mention it's a process with him. And it's a process with all pitchers, and even a little different process with Japanese pitchers. Remember, a starting pitcher in Japan pitches an inning, comes into the dugout, and then with 2 outs, or if there's a man on first and 1 out where there could be a double play, he gets out in front of the dugout and starts warming up. Well, that's not the case in MLB. You sit in the dugout, you wait until the 3rd out, and then you go out and you have only 8 pitches to warm up. Well, in some of these towns, it's impossible to warm up because it's freezing cold. It's 40 degrees. The wind is blowing. The rain is coming down. So for the Japanese as well as the U.S. MLB pitchers, it's very difficult to get the right grip on the ball in the cold and the rain, and also to make sure that your arm is loose. So Loki, now finished the 5th inning. He gave up 1 run, but last game he entered the 5th inning. He could not get an out in the 5th inning and came out of the game. This game, he pitched his 70-plus pitches, and he got through 5 innings. He gave up a run, and he's doing this just with 2 pitches, which is pretty remarkable. The last guy to do it with 2 pitches, I think, was Hideo Nomo. He's trying to establish the 3rd pitch, but right now they're taking him along slowly, throwing fastballs and forkballs, and he's doing a pretty good job of progressing. I'm actually surprised and impressed that he's making such good progress.
Yeah, Sasaki has been very, very good in his last 2 starts. One in Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. Mentioned he didn't get out of the 5th inning, but pitched into the 5th inning for the first time in his career. So slowly progressing. And this past time, last night, it was Saturday night, pitched through the 5th inning, completed 5 for the first time in his major league career. It was a quality start, only gave up 1 run. Dodgers could not score from him. It was actually the worst home performance in Dodgers franchise history. They lost 16-0, the largest home loss that they've ever had, including Brooklyn, anything. Worst loss the Dodgers have ever had at home.
Yeah, and that had nothing to do with
no, he was great.
Loki, that's for sure. But, you give up some runs. The Dodgers are proving that they're a very, very good team, but probably a little vulnerable. They're not quite as great defensively, and their bullpen isn't as great as been advertised yet. You have to let the weather warm up and see what you really have. Right now, the Dodgers and the Angels look like they're going to square off in the World Series. Not sure that's going to happen. But what else do we have in the past week of fabulous baseball? I know in Chicago, a guy who's been hitting very well had another injury, and probably the only knock against this player in Chicago is that he hasn't stayed on the field. He's only played 138 games at the most in his 4 years in the major leagues. And I'm talking about none other than who, Frankie?
Yes, Seiya Suzuki. You talked about that cold weather. Seiya Suzuki out in that cold in the windy city of Chicago. He's had the best start to a season that he's had in his 4-year career. But unfortunately, last night came out of the game against the Dodgers with a wrist injury. Hopefully nothing too serious. He's going to get reevaluated today. Hopefully he's not too dinged up. He'll be back in the lineup hopefully today for Sunday Night Baseball, but if not, in the near future. But he has a great numbers
really
so far.
well, Frankie. You're right. He's, his slash line, and we'd like to take a moment to tell the Japanese fans about this slash line that MLB uses so often to measure a offensive player's production. There's a line of 3 different categories on offense that are shown on TV and are part of the player's statistical breakdown. Why don't we talk about the slash line, Frankie, and what that means?
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So Seiya Suzuki having a great start. The slash line, like Bobby mentioned, measures how good a hitter is doing so far based on 3 specific categories. The first category being batting average, right? Seiya Suzuki.
Batting average, and that's, folks, we all know the number of hits divided into the number of at-bats.
Yes.
Batting average. Next
would be on-base percentage. So how many times in those at-bats you are reaching base, not just including hits.
That's right. That'll be hits plus walks for the times you're on base, and that percentage that's divided by your number of at-bats. And
then the final one would be the slugging percentage, which basically shows how many times you're hitting the ball over the fence for doubles, driving in runs that way. Slugging percentage, that sense.
Slugging percentage is the number of total bases that you get divided into the number of at-bats. So if you hit a home run, you get 4 bases. If you hit a double, you get 2 bases. And the total number of bases is your percentage of slugging. Slug is a very important statistic. Yes, slugging, slug, it's all the same in those statistical categories in Major League Baseball.
So far this season, Seiya Suzuki up over 300 batting average at exactly 302, exactly a 400 on base percentage, very, very good, and a 556 slugging percentage so far. So great numbers from Seiya so far, his best start to a season. 4 home runs are ready to go along with it as well.
Yeah, if you could finish with a 3-4-5, as they like to say, a 3 first number of your batting average, a 4 first number of your on base percentage, and a 5 first number of your slugging percentage, you're a very good hitter. They have to get him back in the lineup if the Cubs are going to stay in contention in the Central of the National League.
Yes, the Cubs have been one of the hottest teams in baseball. That offense is absolutely tearing up the baseball right now. But one of the kings of you could say the first 2 parts of the slash line, the batting average and on-base percentage, another Suzuki, got his jersey on right now. Ichiro, legend for the Mariners. He will be going into the Hall of Fame this year, the first Japanese player to make it in. We touched on him a little bit, but had to bring in Ichiro. Such a great slash line he always had with the batting average, always on base, just the ideal leadoff hitter.
Oh, one of the ideal hitters, one of the best hitters to ever play the game of baseball. Yes, going into the Hall of Fame, and he'll be going in there with another guy who wore number 42, Suzuki Ichiro wore number 51, and a guy named Jackie Robinson wore number 42. And this week on April 15th, and every year on April 15th, all players in Major League Baseball will wear Jackie Robinson's number 42 in commemorating the fact that he was the first Black player, the first African-American player to play in the major leagues. There's another number that maybe will be retired someday for the first, and he wasn't really the first, but the first real known Japanese player. And that number would be what, Frankie?
Number 16 for Hideo Nomo.
Wow. Yes. And you mentioned the Hall of Fame. They have a great exhibit that will be on display this year, tracing the history of U.S. and Japanese baseball over the years and how it has developed. And Hideo Nomo's number 16 will be front and center in that exhibition that will go right through the players of today.
And one can only hope that at some point in time, just like this Japanese section of the Hall of Fame will be commenced for Ichiro Suzuki's induction, we'll hope that one day Hideo Nomo's number 16 could get retired, just like the number 42 of Jackie Robinson, for his integral part to pushing over the Japanese players to come to the MLB.
Yeah, it was very important in 1995 when he came. It was the same year that I became a manager in Japan. It was kind of interesting that he came west and I went east, and we were both the first to do what we were doing. Quite the experience for him, Tommy Lasorda and the Dodgers, and quite an experience for me and the Chiba Lotte Marines. But as we move forward,
now there's 13 active players too.
13 active major league players who have started their careers in the MPB. Yeah, that's quite the mark. There could be 50, there could be 60, but there's 13 right now who decided to make that jump and to eat different food and to figure out all this traveling. And I was thinking about the Dodgers and their travel and how crazy the schedule has been for them, who are just adapting to the schedule. When you talk about a guy named Loki Suzuki, he's adapting to the travel, which has been crazy, to the new food, which has been really kind of inspirational, I hope, for him, to the new teammates, to the new pregame preparation, to the new ball. There's a lot of adaptation, a lot of things that you have to adjust to. And I think the Dodgers are doing a fabulous job, Dave Roberts, in bringing him along and bringing him slowly along, developing him at the major league level. And another guy that they're bringing along slowly in his bullpen work, and he threw another 30 pitches this week. He threw his fastball, he threw his split, and we're talking about none other than Shohei Ohtani, who had a very good session of 90-mile-an-hour fastballs and split fingers.
Yeah, Shohei slowly but surely working his way back. Dodgers rotation obviously has a plethora of arms. Did get a little bit weaker, though, lately. Blake Snell going onto the IL, so could potentially make Dave Roberts think about bringing Shohei back into the fray, into that rotation within the next month and a half. But we'll see how that goes. And we're talking about how managers are dealing with players. Loki Sasaki, Tomoyuki Sugano, another one of those guys. Those are the two rookies coming into MLB this year from the MPB. Two very, very different tracks. Sasaki, only 23 years old, very, very young. Sugano, a seasoned veteran, 35 years old, but both of them kind of finding their footing, but both improving steadily. How would you really treat their progression as they move on through their first seasons?
Well, just as their managers are doing, very slowly. Japanese pitchers are used to throwing more pitches in a game, yet the pitches are being calculated and monitored to make sure that it fits into the American system that has a 5-man rotation. That means they're pitching every 5th day, not every 6th day. And it's a group of guys that prepare in a different way that the Japanese pitchers used to prepare. So to take it slow and make sure that everything is monitored properly is exactly the right way to do things. And hats off to the LA Dodgers organization and Baltimore Orioles organization for understanding how to do that.
Yeah, I'm just continuing to hope that both these guys improve throughout their season. Can't wait to watch them keep going. Sugano with his 92, 93, just locating the zone, and Loki Sasaki looking to blow you away with that hard fastball and that disgusting splitter that you don't even know where it's going to go. It's almost like a knuckleball.
Yeah, very good pitchers, very good pitches, and we're going to move on. You know, what else do we have to talk about, Frankie? Anything else this week? What are we thinking?
What was the last thing we were going to talk about here?
Well, we were going to talk about, we did the slash line, of course, and statistics. And, you know, one other thing I thought would be fun is if we, while we were talking, we also did some sayings that you always hear in Major League Baseball that might not be familiar to Japanese players, like a frozen rope is often mentioned in a telecast, or even if someone's writing about a game when a hitter hits something and they call it a frozen rope. What would a frozen rope be, Frankie?
Frozen rope would be a hard hit line drive, probably not too high off the ground, laser beam into the outfield. Could be caught, could be hit, but just a ball hit very, very hard on a line.
And the reason they call it a frozen rope, if you just image a rope that is wet and it's very cold and it's 20 degrees, that rope gets frozen and it stays very straight. That's it. That's a frozen rope. One of those terms that you hear will go into other terms like can of corn and Baltimore chop and things like that you might hear if you're listening to the Angel game or the Dodger game or the game of the week in Japan, and you hear a U.S. Announcer saying something crazy during the game.
Throwing some high cheese, maybe?
Whoa, high cheese. We'll get into that one next week for sure. Hey, what else do you think, Frankie? The progress is good. The weather is warming up here. We have Easter coming up next weekend. And go.
The weather is warming up very slowly, especially over here where I am in the Northeast. Some very, very cold baseball games. A lot of rain in the past week, so not easy for hitters to get ready to hit, warm up those hands, hit the ball off the bat. It always hurts more when you're hitting in the cold. Pitching, your hands get cold. It's hard to feel the ball. They're trying to adjust to the new baseball, Loki Sasaki and Sugano, the new, how the slightly different feeling of it in your hands. But that, when you can't even feel it in general because your hands are so cold, makes it even more difficult.
Yeah, the weather is a factor. And in some of these cities, it gets really crazy with wind, rain, and cold. But it changes like that. So probably the next time we talk, we'll be talking about the spring has sprung and the grass is riz.
I hope so.
That's an old poem in the States that you don't have to worry about if you're Japanese because it makes no sense. All right. So anyway, we appreciate you watching. We'd like you to stay tuned. We're going to have a place that you can send in your questions starting next week. So start thinking about questions you want to ask Bobby V and Frankie Rampin, because we're talking here together on the Bobby Valentine to Hanashima Show, presented by Steel Sports. And you're going to hear a lot more about Steel Sports as the year goes on, too. Thank you all very much for watching. Take care.